being empathetic and being a good listener are two of the most important things to do as the head. Yeah, I've always been an experiential learner. I've always felt the best teachers are folks that are continually learning. One of the things that was exciting about doing the work that I did while I was in California was to try and find ways for our school to partner with the research that was happening at the university level to try and better understand these neurodiverse learners, these neurodiverse brains.
Right.
Well, I was immersed in an environment that was literally built on the backs of these brains. And all of those brains in Silicon Valley, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, all of those CEOs were neurodiverse. They weren't your typical learners in high school.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the next episode of the Learn It podcast. John, thanks so much for being here with us.
Welcome to Rosedale.
Yeah,
It's nice to have
beautiful. Thanks for spending some time with us. Very unique background, very unique story. We're just chatting behind the scenes as well. And I'm excited for our guests to get to know you as well, learn from your experiences, get some wisdom out of that knowledge. But, I would like to start off back to your degree, because when we were doing a bit of research, Sean and I, we found that you pursued biology, and then you also, it sounded like a concurrent degree with education.
That's right.
Did you, one, why that combination? And two, was it more stemming from, I kind of want to do both, so let me do both and figure it out? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, it was, I kind of want to do both, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
When I finished in high school, I was pretty sure the path I wanted to follow was medicine.
Huh, okay.
And so hence the biology degree with chemistry as a secondary sort of subject in there. And I knew that it would be really competitive to apply to med school.
Okay.
And so I thought if I also have a teaching degree, like, it'll make me a better physician if I wind up going down that path, but it may also improve my chances of being selected
Okay.
to get into a medicine program, because those spots were really hard to find.
So was it more that the professors in the education department were a lot more fun? So you said, you know what, backwards with the biology, let's go all in education. How did you pick?
I did both at the same time.
Yeah. And then after that,
I was out of money. I was broke, and I didn't know what I was going to do.
Oh,
and
okay.
so I pressed the pause button and thought, I'm going to be a substitute teacher for a year while I think about what's next.
Right.
Sort of an adult gap year.
Right? Interesting.
And I wound up getting a job up in Moosonee on the James Bay coast. It was a point in time where they still put things in the newspaper, and you had to fax in your application. But I wound up getting a job teaching science in Moosonee, and I thought, this is a great opportunity for me to practice some of this teaching and also to, give myself a chance to think about what I want to do next.
Yeah. And was it that you loved it so much that you never looked back from there?
A little bit. I had fallen in love with the idea of teaching as a high school student, teaching swimming to students as a part-time job.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I realized I really enjoyed teaching. But going up to Moosonee and having an opportunity to sort of practice the things that I'd been studying, and also to live in a really unique part of the province.
Yeah.
It was great. I went for a year thinking I'll be there for a year. I stayed for 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one thing that scares me is swimming. So maybe if you were my teacher, things would have worked out.
I don't know. For me, swimming's been something that I always enjoyed, and also has led me down many different pathways. It's helped me get, my first teaching job. It helped me get my second teaching job. And, these sorts of things, sometimes they're passions in life, can shape your journey in ways you don't always expect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And can you, take us back to your first day being a substitute teacher, right? Like, what was that like? What were the feelings like on your first day? Like, you walk into a classroom, students looking at you, or you're, in the swimming pool, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, what was that like for you?
So I never actually did substitute teaching.
Okay.
I got this job in Moosonee. So let's pretend it was my first day teaching.
Yeah.
And because that was a real experience.
Right.
And I remember walking into the class and thinking, wow, there's a lot of people in here and they're all looking at me. Let's hope it goes well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was something that you felt like more teachers should do today that you probably did?
for me, it was trying to really understand this new place for me. I'd never been to Moosonee. I'd never been in an isolated community where you have to take a train or a plane to get there.
Right.
And so trying to understand this place that I was in was something that wound up helping me a lot in the classroom. And I think when we look at how multicultural our classrooms are today, understanding those places that our students are coming to us from is something that we can never do enough.
And
because everybody has a story, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And was there someone at the school or a certain point of inspiration for you that you felt helped you like really deepen your craft and education?
I think after I left Moosonee, I wound up at Trinity College School in Port Hope. I met that mentor in my life, Roger Reid, who was the head there.
Okay.
And his approach really resonated with me and really helped me understand what it was that I aspired to as it related to classroom teaching, but also my relationships with my students and my colleagues. He was really an inspirational mentor for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it something you did at the school that you do today? Rosedale, you carry that?
Yeah, one of the things that Roger did at TCS was stand outside every morning as the school arrived to say good morning to the kids. And I still do that. Today here. It's a practice that I've carried with me from watching him at TCS. And then I worked with him again in Vancouver at Collingwood School.
Wow. And speaking of Vancouver, you've also moved around a lot of different provinces within Canada to the US as well. And we were speaking about it. Talk to me about what that looks like. One, from an education perspective in terms of the variances across the provinces that we see, but two, personally, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I've always been an experiential learner. So I've always felt like the best teachers are folks that are continually learning.
Right.
And when I finished I did my master's here at U of T. And at that point, I'd been teaching for 9 or 10 years in Ontario, and I was ready for something different. But I wasn't convinced that I wanted to do like a PhD or something like that. But I did want something different. I did want to grow in my profession. And so when the opportunity came to move across the country and try something completely different in a province I'd never been to, I was really excited about it. So that for me has been the motive behind the movement that's happened in my career. It's been opportunities to continue to learn that looked interesting, that have motivated me to change change where I'm working, change where I'm teaching. Right. So I spent a decade in Vancouver at Collingwood School, and I grew and learned so much from that community. I was blessed to be there for that decade. And one of the things that school did really well was work with kids who were neurodiverse. And that was a real passion of mine that I didn't know I had till I got there.
Right.
And then this opportunity in California came up to run a school purpose-built for kids who were neurodiverse, neuroatypical, and to go and really work with those brains that are, not necessarily well understood, and to help unlock and uncover those gifts that those students have. To do that full time was like, what? I could do that? That's amazing. And so that was the catalyst to leave Vancouver and go down to California and try that, because all of the opportunities for growth and learning down there were huge. And I didn't know, what that pathway was going to look like, but I knew I wanted to explore it.
Yeah. I want to double click into that because I personally don't have a lot of experience working with neurodiverse kids, but what is something that you believe a lot of people misunderstand when it comes to education and educating kids with a neurodiverse background?
Sort of the snippet answer to your question is not all great minds think alike. And so many times in society, there are stereotypical assumptions made by society at large that just because someone learns differently means they're not as smart as someone who is neurotypical. And nothing could be further from the case.
Right.
But I think particularly in the US, that mindset is a little bit more hardwired than it is here in Canada. And I think that for me, one of the things that was exciting about doing the work that I did while I was in California was to try and find ways for our school to partner with the research that was happening at the university level to try and better understand these neurodiverse learners, these neurodiverse brains.
Right.
Well, I was immersed in an environment that was literally built on the backs of these brains. Like, we were just south of Silicon Valley by half an hour.
Wow.
And all of those brains in Silicon Valley, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, all of those CEOs were neurodiverse, right? They weren't your typical learners in high school. And so it was a really exciting space physically to be in while we were doing this really incredible work to try and shift perception in the public about the capacity of kids with learning differences, and also to try and help improve the way that the instructional pedagogy was happening when it came to what was best practice to help those kids that learn differently learn at their best.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask a more tactical question here, but like, how do you go about assessing performance? Like, usually in a school, you'd put an exam out or there'd be a test. To your point, great minds think differently, or like there's a different approach to things, but how do you go about assessing in a way that is a true representation of a kid's ability, especially in that space?
I mean, I think you can think about those questions in a couple of different ways. If you're thinking about how do you do assessment to determine if there is a learning difference or disability, or how do you do assessment in a way that supports a neurodiverse learner that might be in front of you? I'm not sure which.
I'm curious about the latter.
Yeah. So if it's the latter, I think it's a case of thinking creatively about assessment of learning, right? How do you demonstrate the learning that you've done in ways that are aligned with your best capacity? It may not be writing a paper, might be doing a video, might be doing a podcast, might be doing any other number of things that demonstrate the depth of your understanding of the material that you've been assigned to learn.
Right.
Without necessarily focusing on an output mechanism that isn't aligned with your strengths. Right? So if your written output is something that is a challenge for you, asking you to write a paper may not be the most impactful way of demonstrating
your knowledge.
But asking you to do a podcast to explain what you've learned about that could be the kind of tactic or strategy that really lets you shine and show the depth of your understanding, the depth of your knowledge.
Yeah, I really like that. And when you moved to California, was that the first time in your career that you were the head of the school?
Yes.
What was that transition like? Like, was there like a sense of imposter syndrome? Was there a sense of, self-belief? How did you navigate that change? Because a lot of people go through that, and they also face challenges in taking on a role that is significantly more responsibility, different. What was that like for you?
For sure, it was challenging because concurrent to that, we were also living in a new country to us. And you think,
exactly.
Okay, it's just the U.S. and it's California, but those were different things, and there were lots of adjustments that needed to be made that you would never imagine. I think for me, the responsibility of the well-being of the organization at first blush, when you thought about all of the different aspects, was a little intimidating. But I was so blessed to be joining a community, and so blessed to have the benefit of a team around me that was helping the organization do the work. That very quickly I realized that, it didn't all fall on me. It fell on us as the leadership team together. And that made it a lot less daunting.
Yeah. I love that. And today, you're at Rosedale School, you're leading the school as well. Are there certain things that you have found that you have done in your leadership that have proven to be extremely effective, but you think are unique?
I'm not sure if they're unique, but for me, some of the things that have been really impactful or effective has been right back to what I talked about a few moments ago, really trying to get to know the members of the community, whether it's the teaching staff or the support staff or the kids or the parents or the alumni, really trying to be a student of the school and of the school community, and to get to know, the rituals and the importance of the school, and look for ways to celebrate the school. It's our 30th birthday this year.
Oh, wow.
And the school was founded in 1995 by a woman named Mrs. Sharon Stewart.
Okay.
And she started the school towards the end of her career as an outcome of being evicted from a community center that she was doing after school tutoring in.
Oh, wow.
And her group of families that she was tutoring were so upset that she was going to have to close down that they, implored her to start a school.
Wow.
And so she did.
Beautiful.
And 30 years later, here we are. And so for me, especially this year in our 30th year, trying to find ways to honor her legacy and to teach the community about the importance of the work that she did. She was ahead of her time in many, many ways. And here we are, the benefactors of all of that hard work all of these years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like I love to hear stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, this work is relational. And if you understand that at the end of the day, the way that you try and interface with the world around you on behalf of the organization, that's the stuff, right? Being empathetic and being a good listener are two of the most important things to do as the head.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Is there something that you wish someone would have told you before going in to be the head of a school?
I don't know. One of the things I've come to realize is that it's a lifestyle. It isn't a job. Would someone have told me that? Would it have made a difference? I don't know. But it's one of the things that I have come to understand. I mean, I really don't think of it as a job or as a career. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you don't put it down at the end of the day. You might just go home, change your clothes, and you're still, in ways you're still the head. If you bump into a family at the grocery store or at Home Depot, you're still the head of school.
Yeah.
And they're excited to see you. And that's the part of being a community that is so special.
I think that's very similar to what Grace from Branksome Hall said about being a teacher is a lifestyle, not a job.
Absolutely.
You feel like you have your whole class are all your kids, right? So that's not a job. That's definitely.
And we haven't talked about it, but my wife and I don't have children. We're both teachers.
Yeah.
And so we really do go home at
your
night
heart is filled
and talk about other people's kids.
Yeah.
That's who we talk about at the dining room table. And our heart is filled by that. It's definitely one of the reasons that we're together.
Yeah.
Is this common love of children and this common love of teaching and learning. That idea that our lives are richer because of that than it would be if we were just, if we were in work that put food on the table, but that didn't give you the gratification and satisfaction that comes with trying to help raise a generation of folks that will make decisions for us, hopefully good ones, when we're not able to make them for ourselves. I mean, that's really special.
That is
to be able to do that is a great privilege.
Yeah, it's an honor. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one that I feel very lucky to be involved in. And I think a lot of people in education, they realize that there's some sort of responsibility, but also there's a lot of gratitude in having the pleasure of being able to shape our future generation.
Well, and to be surrounded by all of these talented people every day, with a common purpose, whether they're the kids coming to school or whether they're the adults in the building who are teaching, but also on a learning journey together. It's an incredibly satisfying and rewarding environment to work in every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about the kids, right, and the need for them to develop these skills that you talk about, or empathy, about being able to be curious, ask questions, or whatever it might be. How do you think about helping kids develop those skills?
I think it's more and more important than ever to really be intentional about it.
Mm.
When we look at the research that's out there in the world around things that employers are looking for in employees and struggling to find,
Yeah.
there's a list of skills and competencies that are consistently at the top, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And these are really meaningful research studies done by the OECD and all these other, international organizations that are looking at the world of work and preparation for that world. And so I think for us as an elementary, middle school, to get a good foundation of those skills developed in our students is going to help them succeed in high school when they leave us, because we finish in grade 8.
Yeah.
And then go on to their post-secondary studies and into the world of work that almost all of us go into.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so we've really been thoughtful about how we are going to do that. We've identified a series of competencies and skills that we think is complementary and put it into a profile of our graduate that we've published on our website so that people can check it out and see what we're trying to do. But we're shifting our approach to our curriculum so that while we're teaching math, we're also being really purposeful about teaching problem solving and determination and resilience. Or when we're talking about some sort of issue in social studies, we're developing the concept of critical doubt, right? Or we're looking at trying to develop empathy for multiple perspectives.
Right.
And so we've identified a list with our partners from the Future Design School, and we are just finishing our second year of implementing that work into our curriculum here, and into our approach here, and seeing great strides happening. It's been really positive.
And you would say that it's an integration into the curriculum itself rather than trying to segregate it as something different.
Right, because these are habits and these are competencies that you don't just like pull off a shelf and decide, oh, I'm going to be empathetic. You have to be able to be empathetic in the moment if you're having a conversation, right? How do you look at a situation where maybe there's conflict and realize that if you can be empathetic, that conflict might be mitigated or more quickly resolved. So yeah, it's definitely an integrated approach in an effort to try and make sure that these students that graduate from Rosedale are set up for success at the high school level and the post-secondary level and beyond. We talk about meaningful learning for life starting here, and we really think about it that way.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
And before, we were chatting about how the approach at the school is based on inquiry-based learning. Right? Talk to us more about what that looks like in practice. If there's a school that wants to start thinking about it, what does that look like in practice?
That's the approach that we take with our youngest learners in kindergarten and junior kindergarten, grade 1, where they're exploring the world around them for the very first time, right? In a formal educational setting. And so this is the idea of being driven by the questions that students have.
Right.
In a way that's complementary to the curriculum, rather than an arbitrary decision that the teacher might have about which way we're going to go. And so this idea that student voice and student interest is honored as part of the learning process.
Right. Okay.
Right? Rather than it being perhaps driven more top down by the teacher.
Yeah. Especially at that age.
It's a shared journey.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, you've been in education for maybe over 2 decades now or so, right? And one of the things I was just looking at was the development of your strategic plan, which again says meaningful learning for life, right? Meaningful learning for life. What does that where does that come from? What does that mean to you? I know we spoke a little bit about it, but, is that central to the school? Is that at the core of it? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it's central to the work that we're doing as an organization right now. We chose it as a title because we felt that it encapsulated the priorities that we had identified in the plan, but also the overarching objective of the school, which is to create lifelong learners who are in the conscious pursuit of new knowledge and new skills for the remainder of their life. At the end of the day, the most successful people on the planet are people who are lifelong learners. And I think it's important for us to be upfront about that and to try and inculcate that that mindset, that habit of mind into our entire community, whether it's the students or the teachers or the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. All right, we're going to move on to this section that we call Beyond the Classroom Rapid Fire,
Okay,
right? So
sure.
I'll throw you a question. Feel free to give me a response in a minute or so. So first question is there a common misconception about education that you wish more people understood?
This is really hard work. And it's important to realize that it is a lifestyle. Teachers choose this lifestyle. But I'm not sure that society at large appreciates the amount of work that goes into a teacher's day. And I always say to parents who might be on the fence about that, like, come and follow us around for a day. You'll be exhausted.
See the chaos, yeah.
Wear your running shoes. Right? And so, sometimes when we do have a break in the summertime, you'll get people at a cocktail party or something that like to razz you about the fact that, teachers have summers off. They don't work that hard. And I really wish that was something that would just fade. Because it's just not true. I've never been exposed to a harder working group of people in my life. And I don't know that, people really appreciate the amount of physical work, but also the amount of emotional care that goes into teaching a class for 10 months. You really you become a little family, and there's a lot of thinking about how to do things that goes into your time. Your mind thinks about it while you're washing dishes after supper. Those sorts of things, they don't just stop at the end of the day, because it's a craft. It's a sort of it's a mix of science and a bit of an art, and it's grounded in in relationships, and it's hard work.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
If you get the summers off, but you should try, and I think that's more than well deserved, if anything. What is something that you've changed your mind on recently? Let's imagine that you're sitting at a cafe and you meet your rookie teacher self.
Okay, sure.
I don't know what your favorite drink is. Mine's a cappuccino, so I'll assume the same.
Okay.
But you sort of have this opportunity to go back and share a thought or share something that would help your younger self maybe get out of something they're thinking about or struggling with. What would that be?
You're only going to regret the things that you don't do. You're worried that you're going to regret the things that might not work out, but it's really the things that you decide not to do that you'll wind up regretting.
Right. Rather do it than regret it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Don't worry that you're not going to be successful. If it doesn't work out, you'll be on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes as younger teachers, and even older administrators worry about failing. And you can't really learn without failure, right? It's part of the process.
Yeah.
You will not always be successful. That's okay.
Well, I like that. And the last one on the quick fire here is, did your varsity swimming team background ever come in handy in any way?
Oh, I think it's the discipline.
Discipline.
It's the discipline of being, in a profession that's demanding for a long time. You have to have discipline around how you allocate your time, how you allocate your energy,
right?
What's important, identifying what's important in your day. And I mean, the most important thing about that whole experience as a swimmer was the camaraderie and the relationships and the way you learned how to be a good teammate. That's by far the most important thing that I learned as a swimmer. I
had a good friend in high school, and he would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, go to swimming classes, and then come to school at like 7:30. And I said, "Well, I would barely wake up ready in time for school." But I think one thing I noticed even about him today is that discipline is still such a big part of who he is. That he carries that with himself. And I think that is something I've had to learn a little bit later in my life. But to your point, I think sports, athletics, that builds a lot of discipline, a lot of resilience in people, and, teamwork.
And I think all three of those things are really important life skills, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what you're doing with your life. If you can be a good teammate and you can be resilient and disciplined with your time, you're more apt to be successful than someone who can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with your intelligence. It's just those habits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. More important now than ever.
Without
in
question.
The world.
Without question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on to what we call the final question.
Okay.
So we have a bit of a tradition here. We have our previous guests on the show that leave a question. So I'll pop one out for you. And after we've done that, then I would love for you to leave a question for our next guest too.
Sounds great.
So we discover these together with myself. So let's see. I'm just going to switch here. Okay. This question is from Leanne Foster, principal at UTS.
At UTS.
Yeah, perfect. Okay,
it's going to be hard.
Yeah, let's see.
Leanne's tough.
She was tough with me too. But her question is,
tough.
what is one thing you need to stop doing in order to be a better leader?
Doubting yourself.
Okay, tell me more.
I think anytime you're affecting change at an organizational level, it's appropriate to have some self-doubt about whether this is the right time, the right way, all the things. And I think if you're not careful, that can get in the way of good progress that's based on thoughtful and pragmatic change for the right reasons. Right?
Yeah.
But as a leader, there's always a little bit of that self-doubt.
Yeah.
And wondering, okay, hang on a second. Is this really the right way to go? And sometimes it can be distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, I was listening to another podcast and they said that leaders have a tendency to think that every decision they make has to yield success.
When in just reality, talking about that.
Yeah, in reality, great leaders you look at like Tim Cook, Bill Gates, more like these guys don't have 100% hit rate.
No.
Maybe it's 60%, maybe 70% if they're lucky.
You'd love that.
Right?
Yeah.
But they got but the point is they're hitting, right?
That's right.
And whatever hits will hit hard, and those that don't, you admit maybe you thought about it incorrectly, and then you get back up and you keep going. But we I think as leaders, there's a tendency to think that if I'm making it, it has to be correct.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Leadership is a very public role.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to get you to leave a question for our next guest. It could be as tough as Leanne's or or however you feel is right. Yeah.
Great.
So we'll get you to leave a question. But for those that tuned in, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Thanks, John, for
this was great.
Also having a lot of great experience, a lot of different, I felt like it was one of those episodes where you come with a lot of different nuggets of information, right? And I think from your background, whether it was in the States, working with neurodiverse kids, and then swimming, I think there's so much about your personality that shines. And it was a pleasure having you. It was a joy speaking with you. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.